Hi Moses, I just watched your video and it was very interesting. I just thought I would just drop a comment below, but I thought it would be interesting if I share my thoughts about this subject. So this topic, let's say, mm, I gotta tell you something. One day I went to a table conversation for Spanish, and you had like 25 25 students, and I was among the 25 students, and I was just listening to everybody how they speak Spanish, how it is after 2 years 3 years, how they speak. And they did a lot of mistakes, bad pronunciation, and all those stuff. And they didn't know how to construct sentences. um, and why did it happen? So this is a question. The main question is, why did it happen? So the answer would be, they learned backwards. What we learn, you don't have to learn backwards. In at school, they will teach you backwards. They will start right from the grammar, and then they will focus on pronunciation, and then rules and all those stuff, and you'll never use those stuff when you try to communicate with other people. For example, when you speak English, you don't think about, you have to add a s when it's the third person of the singular and all those stuff. You get used to it by listening and reading, and you will learn the rules by listening and reading. So this is Steve Kaufman's method. Input is key. Input is key. So what happened in this table conversation? um, so basically they ask each of the student to just present the student, to introduce the student next to him or her. And it happens to be that I was the last one. She said, "Okay, you're gonna talk in Spanish and present." And I got there late, and I don't had a buddy to introduce, so I introduced myself, and I talked about other things. And everyone was amazed because I spoke better Spanish than the other people, and I'm not taking languages at school. I learned it at home, and I know way better how to speak Spanish than they do, because they focused on grammar and rules, and I focused on listening and reading, and also communicating with South American people. And it was very fast because I learned it like a child, and they learned it like nothing. They didn't learn the language; they just focused on rules. And yeah, they were just shocked, amazed that an Asian people speak better Spanish than them. But it doesn't matter if you're Asian, African, or European, or American. If you have the right attitude and you know the method, you're gonna be successful. And yeah, I want to talk about my mechanics teacher. He said he was always getting good marks in Latin, and he made some competitions here in Belgium in Latin, and he was on the first. He won the first prize. So how did he do? He said, "Oof, the teacher was very good." I asked him what the teacher had so special in Latin teaching. He said, she doesn't have a fixed program. So she come she enters the classroom, and she talk to the students, and she says, what do you have interest in? Which period of the, I don't know, Latin speaking period do you have interest in? Which subject? And students will tell the teacher, and the teacher is gonna search some texts about the favorite subjects, and so it will not be boring. If you just use the same textbook for everyone, and it's gonna be very boring. And most of the language teaching workbooks and textbooks are very, 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 very boring. They don't have any content. They have a lot of grammar, and they don't teach you the language. You don't have any texts in those books. If I skim over the book, I will know I will never use those books to learn any foreign language, because it won't work. And yeah, so my classmates, we were 25, and five of them spoke decent English, like I'm speaking, even better. Someone spoke better, but he was in international school in Amsterdam, so he learned English there, but he didn't learn Dutch. So why not? If you're there, it's not motivating to learn Dutch if you know everyone speaks English, but it depends on you. And what we should do is really begin with listening, because your accent is gonna get better if you listen a lot and you try to reproduce the sound of the language. I know sometimes I get it wrong, but I try to focus a little bit on no, on pronunciation at the beginning, and then I'll get the ASML course learn without grammar during. It depends if it's not in the European language. I'll learn maybe 1 year to 2 years without grammar, like for Japanese. And when I get ready, I'll have the grammar. Now I'm about to take the grammar because to tackle the grammar, because I'm ready. I know the basic stuff in Japanese. It doesn't make any sense to study Japanese grammar if you don't have any knowledge in this language. You don't know how to read kanji. You don't know hiragana. You don't know katakana, and you're reading a Romaji grammar book. This is completely nonsense. So what you're gonna do is listen to Pimpler first if you have it, some podcasts. Just get your ears tuned, and after a while, when you decided to learn it, you're gonna learn it with some beginner textbooks with a lot of text and audio records. Very important, and listen it over and over and over. And after a while, you'll get used to it. Maybe some languages with very heavy grammar, like we can say Italian, French, Russian, Arabic, and Japanese, Korean. It will take you longer to know how to put the things together, but you'll see. Um, if you try not to study backwards, but like children do, they listen to the parents, and then when they are ready, when they got a lot of input, they begin to speak. They begin to speak with mistakes, and then parents correct them, and then they go to school and learn grammar in order to write it correctly. So we should do the same, and not backwards. We want to learn in a natural way. We don't want to learn from scratch from the grammar. And this is how I learned English from scratch from the grammar, and it was very bad. And I couldn't speak English after 2 years, so I focused on TV shows and YouTube, and I watched a lot of videos on YouTube and on TV. So I got fluent by watching videos, input. I never went to, yeah, I went to US twice, but just 2 weeks, and I didn't spoke English at the time. So I developed my English in Belgium. I don't have any English native speaker around me, but I listen to YouTube, and it will help me a lot. So yeah, my English is not so good. I can communicate, but I have a lack of vocabulary, and I don't want to get it further because there are a lot of other interesting languages out there: Arabic, Thai, Tagalog, Bahasa Indonesia, and Korean that I would like to learn. So we'll see what happens in the future. But I'm sure after Japanese, I want to challenge Arabic, and I will challenge Arabi because I think it's a very good challenge, and